He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that birds come and perch on its branches. He told them still another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into about 60 pounds of flour until it worked through all of the dough. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field when a man found it. He hid it again, and in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he had found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and brought it. Once again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that is let down in the lake and caught all kinds of fish. When he was full, the fishermen pulled it up on the shore, and they sat down and collected the good fish in the baskets and threw away the bad one. This is how it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come down and separate the wicked from the righteous and throw them into the blazing furnace, where they will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Have you understood all these things? Jesus asked. Yes, they replied. He said to them, therefore, every teacher of the law who has become a disciple of the kingdom of heaven is like the owner of a house who brings out his storeroom new treasures as well as old. This is the word of God for the people of God. Praise be to God. It's one of those kind of things where we in life want big, grand, just kind of magical things. Like we feel that we need all of the theatrics, we need all of the lights, and we need all of the biggest signs and the biggest presentations and the biggest audiences in life. Because we think that like we need to make this huge, grand impact, like all at once. Like no matter what, it's got to be big, it's got to be bold, it's got to like we're going to cure everything all at once. And it's not realistic. And I guess as I'll say it like this. When I was a younger man, my life was all about, I got to make all the money and I got to do this. And as I have matured, now my wife won't agree that I have matured, but I've learned to I guess, what do they say? Slow down and smell the roses. Life has become about little things, little experiences, little moments that I can see God working in my life, and I can see the impact of like how God is living in my life, in my children's life, and in my family's life. And, so it's little things. Little things can lead to, great beginnings. We hear the parable of the mustard seed. And forgive me here, when I read parables, they say they're supposed to be simple language that are clear and easy to understand. I must be doing something wrong. Sometimes these parables are more confusing than when I ask for a Google, kind of put it to me in simple words, and I'm like, was I supposed to get that from that? But the mustard seed is just about something that can be small. And I mentioned it with the kids about how in life there are things that they can do, young children, that can have a great impact on the world around them. Right, Bryson? Okay. And it's something that, regardless of whether you are, I guess, the expectation or the goal is always that big, grand, magical experience. But we have to understand there are the little steps that we can take to get there. I mean, little acts of faith that we can show what we're going on. And that those little acts of faith are just a simple prayer. And more importantly, a prayer that's not for yourself. Like this week, as you hear about things where the disasters with the floods, or someone is sick, it's important that as you grow in your faith journey, that your focus on life is not inward. It's about what we can do for those around us. But it's also things that, because we want big, grand things, we should never despise those small things. We should never kind of look down upon that simple prayer or a single conversation with somebody else, some interaction. Accept somebody else's invitation. We all lead very busy lives, but when someone else kind of goes outside their comfort zone or their kind of belief window and they say, hey, why don't you come with me? Maybe that's another way God's interacting in their lives. And then it takes those little changes to begin to make an influence. The influence that Christ can have on our lives will work behind the scenes. It'll work quietly without, more times than not, us realizing it. It's not going to be instant, and it's not going to be like that loud, big, bold thing, but it's going to happen progressively. It's going to happen over time. And that gospel and that faith journey in our life will begin to change our heart. It will begin to change our homes. It will begin to change churches. Churches will begin to change communities. And those little things of starting from a single person's heart to a single family's home to something growing into a church and growing into a community are those little changes, those little incremental steps that we need to get to that big grand idea. Jesus says, just keep being faithful. Just keep serving. Just keep praying. Those are things that we can do to allow those influences to build in our lives. Little lessons in life will begin to prepare us for the kingdom. One of the last parables is about, when the angels come back, they're going to clean the slate. They're going to take individuals that are not worthy or not living up to it or not, of a benefit to the kingdom and clean that slate. And the biggest thing about that is you have to understand what your faith journey is. When I read this, I thought to myself, as a young man, a lot of times I was asked, do you understand? Like somebody had given you a set of instructions. Do you understand? And instantly, I always said, yeah, I understand. Because I didn't want to act like I wasn't paying attention, which a lot of times I wasn't. I didn't want to act like I didn't know what they were talking about, which sometimes I didn't always. But it's okay to admit when we don't understand. But that means we need to go back and start over in our journey. And let's start those little things again. Start those small steps. And it's our time, time, talents, those kind of things that we can give back. This week, as I went on vacation, I ended up being my daughter's buddy. When we're at home and I'm very busy at work or kind of running around in the chaos of life, my wife is a stay-at-home mom. So my daughter and my wife spend a lot of time together. So Monday morning when we got to Dollywood, my daughter grabbed my hand as soon as we got through the gates, was like, come on, Dad. And she was content to separate from everybody else in the group because she knew that she had my undivided attention for however long that day was going to be. And in life, I probably fail to do that as much as I should. just stay fully committed in that moment with my daughter. 9 years old. Still likes me. Not sure how much longer that will last. But as we are walking around Dollywood, I just get to see her experience life. And it's one of those things where I feel that I have put her on the right path of life. Yesterday afternoon, she was a little upset that I wasn't going to be at church with them this morning. She's like, "Why are you not going to be with us tomorrow?" I says, "Well, honey," I says, "I'm going to go to Fairall." I said, they've still invited me to preach. She says, "Will they still like you over there?" I go, "I guess." I says, "But don't worry, honey." I said, the world is working out that, next week, their service time is changing and I'll be able to come back and be at service with you. But it's like my daughter wants me to be at church with her. Because now we grow up to the point of life that now my 15-year-old son, he begrudgingly gets up on Sunday morning. But there is no doubt in my mind Sunday morning where my family is going to be. And it seems like a little thing to just kind of be in church. To take the time out of your Sunday morning when it could be busy and it could be whatever and be in church. It's the little things in life that throughout the course of the week I can do. I can make sure on Tuesday afternoon I can take the time to have a one-on-one conversation with a coworker. Because as people begin to understand who you are in life, they will open up to you. They will be willing to kind of share more about themselves and their life and their circumstances with you than they maybe would with some of their other coworkers. And that is you living your faith journey and having those little moments, those little conversations. And it may seem like an inconvenience. And it may seem like something that you're not capable of. But I promise you, in your faith journey, if you're willing to do it, you'll have the right words. Sometimes you'll say something and you're not even sure where it came from. You're like, and afterwards you think to yourself, how in the world did I come up with that? It's those little opportunities. It's those little moments in time that we take to continue to grow and build our faith. As I shared with the kids, you can take to me, I guess we don't grow mustard trees around here. So the apple tree is an interesting one. It's where you could take a single seed and get thousands of things, thousands of apples. And those would just continue to produce more and more and more. And people say that I can't speak or I can't pray or I'm not a biblical scholar. You don't have to be. I'm not. I volunteered to be here. Whether it is the Lord acting in my life and what has happened in the last decade or so of my life that has brought me to this point, but it's those little things, it's those little steps, it's those little ways in which you are willing to embrace your faith, to embrace Christ in your life and move forward in with whatever direction that may lead. You can't fight it. Because if you fight it, guess what's going to happen? You're going to end up right where you were supposed to be anyway. It might take you longer to get here. The path may be a little more bumpy or a little more difficult. But just be willing and open and honest to say a little prayer, to have a conversation, and just say yes to whatever opportunity comes across so that you know that you can impact the lives around you. So as you go back into your week this week, the challenge always is open your eyes for those little things that you can do. And doing. Would you please bow your head?